So the Until Dawn remake has been out for a while, and people have had some mixed feelings. People are kind of like, oh, the graphics are kind of trash. Well, I mean, it is kind of weird because, like, you know, it does kind of feel oofy, the graphics, but like it does feel better in the sense like of like the outside and whatnot looks better, but then like the characters' faces kind of look weird. Like, I don't know, they kind of look like eggs to me. I'm not gonna front, like, in that perspective, like, you know, like they faces look kind of weird, but then like it looks great, like with like the environments look great. But what is my thoughts on the game overall? Because people say like the game was like lightning in a bottle, in which I feel like I have to agree and disagree, because it Loki is lightning in a bottle, but not in the sense how some people think. Because people say it came out in the right time, which I guess it did, because like when it came out, the right people were playing it, like Markiplier, PewDiePie, Jacksepticeye, people like that, right? It was like the horror era. And to that I agree, but like a lot of people are playing this game right now. Maybe not to the same extent. And like a lot of people are not gonna replay the game. But I do feel like people are like undermining the fact that like it's not a bad game, but the thing is like, you know, it's been like almost a decade since the game came out, and yes, you could replay it since that time, and you know, it would be like, you know, a good time to play it. But it's like, what is the value you get from replaying the game, right? So in this scenario, in this case, so I saw a lot of people replaying this game. Like, why didn't I want to play this game, right? Well, for one, the price tag. Yes, they enhanced the graphics and whatnot, but the content they gave to this game, the content of the game isn't really as much. Like, yes, the prologue they did add, I did make a comparison to it, and the content they did to add to it was a good chunk, just the prologue itself. And then the ending, you do get the Sam ending, and then the Josh, he does get a survive ending. What else they added? I think they added this exclusive ending with Matt, not ending. There's this exclusive thing with Matt and M, where if you go their route, it was like a last episode that was only available in like the UK area that you get to like play now. But like the biggest thing with Until Dawn, which I feel like the reason why I don't think it's the quote unquote lightning in the bottle, I feel like it's because like people are still going to talk about this. Like, I mean, people will be like, it's a remaster, as good as they say. What's wrong with the remake? This, that, to the fourth degree. Or they'll go back to playing the original and see what the difference is there. And honestly, some people will probably just buy the old one or play it on the store. Because the thing is, the PlayStation Network has the original to play. So some people might just get PlayStation Network to play the original. I thought about it, but the only reason I didn't play this, and this is literally one scene, is because they got the spirit board, the Ouija, as they said, the Ouija board, and I ain't about that. So I literally always have to cut that scene out because I freaking hate the Ouija board. So I think honestly the story itself, because people always talk about the Quarry versus this game, I think the story here is a lot more solid. It does feel like it actually has a coherent ending, even though I always think about it, it's like the prank doesn't make sense. But I think it does make this story, even though I feel like it does feel super fast towards the end, I feel like the story is a lot more solid compared to the Quarry. Like the Quarry, I was looking back at it, And the Corey just feels all over the place in terms of what it's supposed to be when you compare these two games. And the Corey came out 2 years ago, and the Corey is really horrible to like replay multiple times. So if this game, you can replay it and try to go with so many different types of endings. Like you try to see the different types of endings. And okay, spoilers on a 10-year-old game. So like once you find out who like the culprit is, and the culprit is Josh, which it's even better to play the game because like you kind of be like, well, why did he do this? Which I mean, it kind of makes sense why he does it, and you kind of be like, oh, it makes sense why he does all this, and you kind of figure out, okay, well, like what do we get from this? So like you want to see like what you can do and the alternative routes when it comes to like specifically like the other member surviving with this game. Like when it comes to the Corey just feels like the stakes, like everyone, it's a little hard to explain, but like I feel like replaying the Corey feels weird because it's not even about the personalities, because there's some characters that are likable in the Corey and there's some characters that are likable in this game, but with the Corey it's like the story just feels like weird in some points. So like in this game, even though it may seem like it's a slow start, there is something that is always pulling you in. So like, for example, if it's your first time playing, you're like, okay, who's the person who is doing this to you? In which I told you why it's Josh. And then in your second time, you want to figure out why Josh is doing to you, and like the alternative routes if you decide like to play it again. It's like, what happens if you decide to do this when you are messing around with Josh's routes, and like then you want to figure out all the dead routes, right? But it also comes to the fact, like with the enemies, right, the survivors, the sole survivor routes and the routes, right, when the characters die, you get to hear like how they would react if a character dies and whatnot. But like and this is what they butchered up big time with the Corey. In the Corey, towards the end, you have this like weird thing they do, where they be like, oh, it's kind of like in the 80s was like, you know how in the 80s they would have like the scenes like, Jessica survived the night, she later became the graduate of Harvard or something like that. That's how they would have like a tiny segment of how what the character did afterwards, right? And then they ended it by having like some kind of podcast person talk about the rest of like the clip or trailer, and that's about it. But like it was like you don't actually get to hear about how the campers felt of the night, and it felt very impersonal. Like, why on earth would you want to even like play through the game? Like, you don't even get to hear about what the campers think about the game. But like in the Until Dawn, you'd be like, oh, this, like, so for example, you get to hear Sam, right? She's like, you have to go down to the mine. I'm fine, you have to go down. And you have Emily, even though she's like, in one round, Emily's gonna be like, oh my goodness, this a-hole Matt left me to dead. And in the alternative route, she's gonna be like, is Matt fine? Like, is he okay? Like, you have that. And Jess is like, oh, Mike, he tried to save me. Like, you have that type of stuff going on. So I feel like it was more personal. It feels more personal with Until Dawn than it does with the Quarry. Another thing with Until Dawn is, dang, when it comes to characters dying, depending on who the character is, you can kind of feel it. So like Mike and Sam are not really supposed to die until the end, so you can't really feel their deaths. But you would kind of feel it when it comes to, like, let's say Emily. Honestly, Emily is one of the bigger people. Emily, kind of Chris. Actually, it's kind of weird. So, okay, I was watching someone play through the game, right? And they purposely got Ashley killed because they kind of hated Ashley because they had killed. So Ashley can kill off Chris, right? And actually, in their playthrough, they accidentally killed off Chris because of a scene with Josh and Ashley. You know, Ashley's like, "Oh, since you saved my life, you could kill me," but because of that, Ashley will kill off Chris in that scene later. So then, Ashley kills off Chris, and in return, the person decides to kill off Ashley, right? And it kind of feels inconsequential because of how late Ashley dies, but if you kill off Emily, it kind of feels weird because, when Emily dies, and this is kind of big, if you have Emily get bit by the Wendigo, there's this really crazy thing that happens where everyone starts freaking out about her getting bit, and it could lead to like them having to like actually kill her themselves, which would add to like the tension and whatnot. Be like, oh, there's blood in my hand. And it's like, oh dang, you really killed someone, instead of like the one that goes slaying them. But if it's like you accidentally kill Emily before then, like you never get to that scene, or if Emily survives, you don't get that scene either. So I just find that kind of like that's another personal thing that like you don't really get, because like in the Quarry, you could kill Jacob and you wouldn't even realize it. Like the people who is there, like you kill Jacob and people don't even know. Like you wouldn't even know. Like you, the player, will know, but not the people who are in the camp. It feels very impersonal because like they set up Jacob to be like a very important character, and then he just kind of just disappears from the story by accident. Like it's just like, even though he's like one of the main people who like starts, like he's the reason why you're there, and then it's just like, oopsie, I guess we're just gonna kill him by accident, and then you guys are all into this whole dilemma, and then it just feels like, well, dang, I thought he was supposed to have like one of the bigger developments. So that's one of the other problems with like the Quarry. Another reason why I think Until Dawn works a lot is because Until Dawn, okay, so the cast of characters, they are set up in couples essentially. So like Matt and Emily, Chris and Ashley, Sam and Josh, and Mike and Josh. So 8 people, right? And you work with that dynamic from the first half of the game, and then later on it shifts. So then they have to like either work by themselves or like work in a group, right? But then in the Quarry, it's done very poorly because the it's not a couple dynamic, because the only real couple is I don't even remember the name, is I believe Jacob, and is her name just M. We're the only quote-unquote couple, and then there's a love triangle between Ryan, Caitlyn, and some other person. However, that love triangle isn't even a love triangle, because then Ryan apparently starts getting a crush on this other girl who's in a relationship with a guy who turns into a werewolf. So like it kind of just doesn't really go anywhere. So like then it feels like Caitlyn and the dude who was part of the love triangle ends up being more of a like friendship couple than the whole love triangle scenario. So it feels weird, because like the whole point of it was like it feels like they get a closer friendship than like what it was originally going for. And then the friends was, I think her name is Abby and M, are horrible friends, because M is a horrible person, and Abby is in love with some guy who ends up tonguing the horrible friend, and then he just turns into a werewolf like right away. So like that just like goes to puts like there's like no real dynamic, and then Jacob is literally kind of stuck doing his own thing because he just kind of gets trapped, or just like is not really able to be with part of the friend group. So that's what I'm saying, like the quarry just doesn't work as well, because like with the Until Dawn cast, you will have Kristen and Ashley together for most part, and Sam is gonna be alone for like, well, first she's gonna be with Josh, and then she's gonna be alone for a while, but then she's gonna work mostly as a group or with what's his face, she's gonna work with Mike for the rest of the game. So then she has that dynamic, and then M, she's gonna be alone, but she's gonna work with Matt for the first half of the game, right? And then Matt is gonna work with Jess. So like even though people will be alone for a segment, they like still work together as a team, or like have their moments to shine. Even the people who don't have their moments to shine still like work within the story and don't feel like they're underdeveloped. And even when they are underdeveloped, like you wish you got to see more of them, where it's like, dang, I wish I got to see more of this character, because like maybe I would like him more, and maybe like that would help improve the rest of the cast. But like in the core, you're just like, dang, I don't want to see more of this character, because this character is kind of an a-hole, like quote unquote M. Like okay, because okay, M, okay, this is how I like to put it, M and Emily, but like M is like an a-hole, while Emily is an a-hole but a reliable one, and M is a a-hole and she just kind of luckily I'm sorry, it's just like she okay, so M is like the influencer who somehow manages to survive, and yeah, apparently she manages to survive. I don't know how, but like the reason why I don't say she's reliable is because she literally drove herself into she was like, yo, let me get attacked. Like that's one of the options where she could get attacked. Which is why I was just like, bleep her. And then Emily is like, she is like scared the whole time, and she's just like, no, I don't want to be in this situation. So yeah, I don't even get it. But I think Until Dawn, it did come in the right place, the perfect time, and it did have potential, which is why everyone's excited for the sequel that this hinted out to. The story is great. Like, it does have a lot of replayability and a lot of watchability, which is why people can play it over and over again and watch it over again. Like, this wasn't like just like lightning in a bottle. It had potential and people did see it, which is why this became like a cult classic. So I think that when the sequel does come out, that it will be successful if it managed to get the same luck that it did the first time. Like, if they put the same effort it did in this game. In terms of like why people feel like this remake was successful, is because I just think the graphical enhancements just didn't work. Like, yes, people talk about that they think the enhancements just feel sloppy, but it just didn't work because the enhancements just don't feel like it actually enhanced the game. I just feel like the enhancements kind of weaken it, because the enhancements, like, the reason why they feel more realistic in the PS4 era is because it felt like this couldn't be done. But now that this feels like this could be done, this doesn't really make like the game feel like a realistic game. This kind of makes the game feel less realistic, to be honest. So, like it didn't have to have the enhancement, to be honest. It could just have been like a remaster instead of a remake. So, with that being said, I hope my ramblings made sense. If they didn't, I'm sorry. But if you want to see more from me, let me know if anything I said makes sense, and watch the next video if you're interested, and let me know what your thoughts are. You guys interested in the potential sequel slash whatever they go with this direction? What are your thoughts on the games they make for this franchise? I hear that they make other types of games for this whatever they make here, but I don't know what it's called. I only know they made the core and some kind of other anthologies, but let me know what your thoughts about them. This is JJBEATS signing out, and I hope you guys have fun. Bye.